video series intending to provide you different perspectives on how you may align. Now, one of the questions I get asked often is, Kiana, what do you think about? And often it's about diets and what people are eating. And, you know, I do not believe that we should live in a prescriptive way. I think what resonates for my body and my way of being and what's important to me and what I value might be very different for you. Um, I think it's important to understand that your actual values will show up in the foods that you eat and how you consume, how that affects you, and so forth. So, I want to start by giving an example of a woman that I met last night who was telling me that she was intuitive eating. I thought, oh, how fantastic. And then later on in the conversation, she was telling me how she was eating eggs and she was choking as she was eating the yolk of the egg, that she didn't really like it, but she needed to eat it because, the protein. And I said, well, that's what you're describing is the antithesis of intuitive eating, because clearly your body is having a reaction to the food that you're eating. But you're saying that your mind is telling you you need to eat this for the protein, which is going against what your intuition is telling you, what your body wisdom is saying, like this, I don't want to eat this. This doesn't resonate with me. And that would be an example of something where somebody says they're doing something and they may be doing it in many ways. And yet, this particular aspect or story that she was sharing with me was an example of, hey, that's not really in alignment with what you're saying. So I could go multiple ways with this video, but I think the most important thing is to stick with the topic of intuitive eating. So that's what I'm going to do, because you could see where somebody was saying one thing and doing another, which is incongruent. I'm not going to say that she's incongruent in everything, but she's not necessarily intuitive eating. She thinks she is, but she's not necessarily, because when you intuitively eat, it's all about resonance. It would be like um, when I drink out of water, normally I have a straw. I prefer to drink out of a straw opposed to a glass and drink like a normal person. But then I started drinking out of my crystal and I decided to take my crystal out of storage and I'm going to use it for every day. No longer saving my crystal for special occasions. Going to use it for everyday water. But what I noticed is that my water, I like to drink my water out of crystal. That is a new awareness to me, and I drink it normally. I don't use a straw. So that would be more of an intuitive awareness, like, oh, I like to drink out of this glass like this, and I like to drink out of that kind of glass like this. And those are intuitive hits, is what we would call them. Now, how you eat intuitively would be variant on what it is that you value. So, for example, when I started my healing journey many years ago, and I wanted to increase my intuition. So, meaning I wanted to really grow in my intuitive aspects and in my psychology. And all the research I did said to cut out gluten, that could pretty much cause a lot of interference in how you're receiving signals. And that is because a lot of the gluten here in the United States is somewhat some people say tainted. So it interferes with how you process information and get signals. So, with that being said, I cut out gluten. I did this for many, many years, and I didn't, it wasn't that I don't like bread, because I really do like bread, but I valued this aspect of growing spiritually and intuitively more so than my desire to have bread. Now, I'm no longer gluten free. However, I do think that it has its place for people. Now, if there are people that are gluten intolerant, a lot of people are getting tested for that. That's a thing here in the United States, in our global community. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about eating intuitively. So, what you resonate with. So, things that you like to eat. So, for example, I am not a big meat eater, but I don't have any judgments against people who eat. I think we need to eat how our bodies are telling us. That's intuitive. So for me, I don't eat a lot of red meat. It's never really been my thing. However, there is one place that I have in the past liked a particular type of meat, and I will go there. I know how it's farmed. I know how it's processed. I know what they feed the animal, and I like that. It resonates with me. And so, therefore, I will eat it. But I don't do that for every place. Like, I won't go into a place saying, oh, I've got to have this. I usually check in with my body and see, oh, what feels good for me right now, not what do I want to eat. And I think that's the biggest distinction between intuitive eating and just regular eating. It's not what you want, it's not ego driven, it's not even thought driven. It's like, what does your body need? So I will go through phases in my day where I don't have a craving for anything, while other days I might be processing stuff emotionally or spiritually, or I might be doing something physically and I need a different type of energy. And so my body will crave something. So, for example, if I do a lot of physical exertion, I will crave something that will give me more of an insulin boost, if you will. So, maybe apples or cheese or whatever. I go through stints where I have cravings. I don't try to understand all the cravings unless I feel like the craving is somehow in a discordant way, meaning it's negatively influencing me. Even then, I will listen to my body and I will try to adjust. But I don't go into judgment. So, therefore, if I eat something that somebody in my mind might say is bad for me, I don't go into judgment for what it is I'm eating. I really just try to adjust. Now, sometimes my body can be very sensitive. Your body's different than my body, and how we react to foods can be very different. So, I'm not much of an ice cream eater, but we found a good gelato place. This gelato is like insanely good. I ate more than what I would normally eat in gelato. My husband bought the family size gelato. Okay. So I ate the gelato because I hadn't eaten for a period of time. So I was hungry. Then I had a super drop in energy and I thought, oh, I'm just going to eat this gelato. But as I'm eating the gelato, it was so good. I just finished it. It was so good. And I ate more than what a small serving would be. I ate like more than my fair share. Needless to say, I had the worst headache for the next 2 days because of all the sugar. Now, I won't be eating that gelato anytime soon just because now I have gone to the extremes of not listening to my body and eating something because it was there instead of what I really needed, which was some kind of nutrient, probably hydration. But long story short, like that would not be intuitive eating. That's just eating because, oh my God, it's like indulgent, right? That's indulgent eating. Intuitive eating would then be like noticing when you're indulging like that and addressing what was missing during that time of that indulgence. What was happening physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and addressing that need rather than filling it with this behavior of indulgence, whatever that is. Whatever you choose to do with your diet and eating, what's most important is that you are not in judgment of your body and how you are expressing whatever you are expressing during those times of the indulgent, or maybe you think you shouldn't do something. Like, notice that you're thinking those things and stop yourself from going into the ego mind, because that is where there's more trouble with the food than actually the ingesting of the food. It's like a double whammy. Because if you are in judgment of yourself or others over their ways of being and expressing, you're causing yourself a double whammy as far as what the learning will be. So, to intuitively eat would be to feel in the moments and to just have awareness in those moments. Give yourself grace in those moments. Don't force yourself to do things and eat things that you're uncomfortable with. Listening to your body instead of your mind over what you think you should do because of protein. There's a million false information out there about food. So do your research. Don't go with what you've been told. Like, start to look around and see, well, is that really true? Do you really need to eat that? If it doesn't feel good and your body's having some resistance to it, don't do it. For me, like, even eating too much garlic, I will have a violent reaction. My body will tell me immediately. If I don't resonate with a food, it will just get rid of it. I will either throw up or run to the bathroom within a short period of time. That's how quickly my body will process through what does not resonate with it. So I think that's a gift, although it can be quite uncomfortable. But what is your experience of intuitive eating? Like, there's no prescriptive for it because we all will do it differently. But the key is that you're becoming more aware of your body, more in tune with your body, what your body needs, when your body is in depletion, what does it crave? And as you start to understand that those are all patterns, then you could start to disrupt some of those patterns by preempting things. So it's quite interesting. Hydration, by and large, is the biggest issue with most people. Um, Myself included, not taking in enough hydration, not absorbing enough hydration. And then, therefore, that causes instability within our cells. And when we have that instability, it changes how our communication and our signals are for food, for communication, for pretty much everything. Anyways, I could go on and on about this topic. I think it's fascinating. I think food is very an interesting tool in which our bodies operate, and it changes as we change. And I think that's the most important message of this whole video, is that our bodies change as we change. So if we change unconsciously, we need to be more aware and attuned to those changes. All right. I hope that you have a great day. I am Kiana Sage, and I guide people to peace. Cheers.